everybody, it's me, Jennifer Turner, again with another little tip and trick that you, as a teacher, educator, anyone, can use in a spreadsheet to kind of make your life a little easier and to help you analyze your data. And that's going to be pivot tables. Today I'm going to show it in Google Sheets how to do a pivot table. So when you do a pivot table in Google Sheets, first thing is you have to have a spreadsheet that has some sort of information in it that you want information for. A pivot table will summarize the data. That's what it does for you. It summarizes it and kind of lets you know what's going on, what percentages in certain categories. You could do that manually with sorting and filtering, but why should you whenever you can do a pivot table? So first thing you're going to do is highlight the information you want to summarize. I usually highlight the whole spreadsheet, but you could maybe only want these 4 columns or these certain rows. You can highlight whatever it is that you want it to summarize for you. And then you're going to do Insert Pivot Table. You have the option of adjusting where you want it to pull the information to summarize. Like I said, I'm doing my whole sheet. And you have the option of putting the pivot table on top of your data on the same sheet or on a new one. I tend to do a new one, but that's my personal preference. You just play with the two, see what you like. When it creates the pivot table, sometimes right up here it'll give you some suggestions for things that it thinks you might want to summarize. Other times it'll be totally blank, like right now, because it has no idea what I want from it. What you're going to do is you're going to hit the Add button to decide what do I want on my rows, what do I want on my columns, and then what the values is what do I want in the middle. So for my rows, I might want the percentile of the students, because this is data on how students performed on a reading diagnostic test. For my columns, maybe I want them, we'll say by grade. And then in the middle, I want to count. Okay, I want a number of kids that at each grade at each percentile. And so it's always going to give you this first column and row, which is the 0, the blanks, because I didn't just highlight the cells that had information in it, I highlighted my entire spreadsheet. So there's cells, columns, and rows that have blanks in it. And so it's giving me this one. You can go in if you want and hide them. I tend to hide them before I share a pivot table with somebody else, just for them to see the data and see the summarization. So you can change things too. So right now I have it default. I can do it as a percent of row. So of the students who scored first percentile, 33% were in 6th grade, 29% were in 7th grade, and 38% were in 8th grade. Now remember that all of my data is made up. It is this map data over here is made to look like what it looks like when you download the grades report for NWEA map, but there's nothing in there that was actually downloaded for NWEA map. I made it up, made it look the same. Or maybe on the flip side, we're going to go to 95th percentile. 100% of the students who scored 95th percentile were in 6th grade, according to this data. So that's interesting. Why is it that we don't have any really high performers in 7th and 8th grade? You can do it as a percent of the column. So out of my 6th graders, reading down, 5% are in first percentile. And 1.49% are at 95th percentile. And so when you read down that way, it just kind of depends. Or you can do percent of the grand total. Of the students in my campus, 1.96% are in 6th grade and at first percentile. So just keep in mind that whatever you have as the show as is how you read it. Just like if you're doing a math problem and you got to figure out that it's miles per hour because of what you had before. Before you did your problem, you had miles and time. So same thing, you got to think about how you're reading it. Percent of the grand total of my whole campus, of all of the data in my original sheet. Of the column is of whatever this header is. This is the percentile. And then of the row is whatever this is here going across is how you read it. You can also make this pretty complicated. I might want to do percentile, and then I might also want to do RIT score. Now the order that you do it here is it's going to do grade and then RIT score and then percentile under each one. And so it's going to, you can see it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And so, and here's 7th grade and RIT scores. and the different percentiles for each RIT score, and then 8th grade and RIT scores. So you can make it as simple or as complicated. You could have multiple things going down for your columns and your rows, and you can even put multiple things in your values if you want. I tend to keep it pretty simple because it gets hard to read a big pivot table like that. Now, reason why I prefer pivot tables to charts, which I will do a video on charts because they are very pretty, but this is why I prefer. Like, if I want to know who are those 6th graders at 95th percentile, if I double click on this cell, it's going to open up a new tab in my Google Sheet, and it's Brooklyn Brown and Leonardo DiCaprio are my 2 6th graders that scored 95th percentile. And then I can look at their other scores and make some decisions about those students based on that. A chart and a graph is not, I'm going to call it hyperlinked like that. So if you double click on a chart and a graph, it's not going to open up which kids make up that part of the chart or the graph. But in a pivot table, it will, and that's why I tend to prefer pivot tables when I'm doing data analysis. All right, if you have any questions about pivot tables, please drop me a comment below. If you want to see how to do this in Excel, because I've mentioned before, Excel is a slightly more robust program. You have slightly more options. Then go ahead and drop me a comment. I'll be happy to make a video and show you the features of Excel pivot tables. And if you're like, you know what, I really want to know about, and it's something I haven't done a video on yet, or maybe you want some more details that weren't in the video that I did do, just drop me a comment. Let me know what you're interested in. And bye, guys.